All right, tonight I have a message for you guys from the astral. I'm not doing this with my mic, so hopefully you'll have the volume's good. We'll see. I don't have a lot of battery on my phone, so I have it plugged in. Hence why I don't have my microphone. Also, I'm dog sitting, and so you might see some animals about. I have 2 dogs and my cat, and so they'll be accompanying us throughout the reading. We'll get into the message from the astral, get into the symbolism, get into some of the symbolism and what that means for you, and then also some of the archetypes that showed up in that message. So let's get into it. I don't have a lot of time, so hopefully we can get through this relatively seamlessly and unscathed with enough memory storage and battery juice and no animal drama. Let's do it. All right, so and by the way, we had the 3/3 portal yesterday with the full blood warm moon eclipse in Virgo. So huge energetic portal. It was not a portal for manifestation, but rather a portal for release. So hopefully you all got in your full moon rituals. I did not curate a message for that, but I did participate and partake in the energy of the eclipse and that 3/3 portal. So, and again, it was in Virgo, second decan Virgo, which is ruled by the 9 of Pentacles in the tarot, which of course has to do with, it's pre-Empress energy, has to do with self-love, self-care. But again, that portal was all about release, final shedding, really, and the last eclipse of this lunar year. So anyway, let's get into the message from the portal. It was quite interesting and adventurous, really, but very telling. So in the astral, you were with your daughter, so kind of like a younger energy. You're with your daughter, and she was presenting to you these 2 buses, these 2 buses that were no longer in service. They were operable, but they weren't in service. And she was trying to sell you on a pitch of all the ways you can repurpose these buses and reuse them, and how they still run, and how they would be great for a mobile pop-up shop, or this business venture with these 2 buses. And I'm thinking, okay, well, why do we need 2 though? But so anyway, you're sold on the idea, you see the vision, and you end up with one of the buses, even though both of them were operable. You end up with both of the buses, and you're the one behind the driver, the wheel though, and you end up at a pit stop. It seemed residential, at a family that not your family, but a family, like a mother, a father, and a son. And your daughter was making these last minute negotiations in her normal, in a Page of Wands type, bubbly, open, entrepreneurial, young spirited Page of Wands type energy. And you're kind of observing the exchange and the dialogue, the back and forth, and the interaction in general. And you realize that something's not right, and the hairs on the back of your neck start to rise. You start feeling in your bones, your intuition that something's not right. And as you begin to feel that, you start to see like subtle things in the family, in each individual family. There's an older father, older mother, and then a son, maybe in his early 20s or something. But you notice characteristics in this family, like they were trying really hard to maintain their form as if they weren't human, and shifting, like you saw like shifts in the eyes and weird movements and kind of like a shimmer, or kind of like holding back a shape shift in type of a way. So in the astral, the feeling was vampirism, vampires, but it was something older and more mythical than that. It was something else, maybe something that we don't know on a conscious level, or know on a conscious level to be something ancient and dark. But so you're trying to communicate, you feel a sense of urgency, and you're trying to communicate to your daughter that it's time to go. You need to get out of there right now. And nothing's being verbalized, but it's all communicated non-verbally and energetically. And she's getting the hint, but neither one of you are scared, but you feel the sense of urgency. So you both start to hightail it out of there, and without running, but with urgency, making your way back to the bus. And you feel not, and at this time it's daylight, and you feel the energy shift from dealing with potential non-human entities to just an energetic force that doesn't have a form. It's just an energetic force that's chasing. And so you and your daughter make it onto the bus, and again, you're the one behind the wheel, and you're driving this bus as fast as you can. And all of a sudden it's dark, the scene is changed. You're driving over, it seems like this bus is going abnormally fast for a bus. And you recognize that you're driving over terrain that's like liquid lava, but it's kind of mercurial because it's silver and gold and made of light and fire, and it's like kind of rippling and waving. And you're thinking, we got to get across this terrain no matter what before these tires incinerate or disintegrate, incinerate or disintegrate, one of the two. But you're thinking there's an urgency to get across this terrain, but never once did you feel like you couldn't do it. Like you were just full speed ahead, no fear, just focused and driven, and you make it across. And all of a sudden, you and your daughter are no longer in the bus. It may have disintegrated, I don't know, but the scene, you're across this terrain, this mercurial, molten silver, gold, light and fire, molten lava terrain that you're driving over. And you're met with these creatures, these mythical looking creatures. They're very low to the ground, maybe bigger than a fox but smaller than a wolf, and shaped kind of like a four-legged dragon but small. And they had very fluffy feathers instead of scales. They were deceptively fluffy and maybe cute, but you knew they were dangerous. And they used their body, they whipped around in a circle using their feathers as weapons. So they whipped around in these circles that's how they attacked. and you and your daughter were making your way across this ground, this yard, it seemed like, and all of a sudden, you get past the very last mythical creature, nothing I've ever seen before, nothing you've ever seen before, and it was just completely unrecognizable. The best it could be described is some sort of dragon with feathers. So, but smaller. And after you make it past the last one, which was white, red, and gold, and you are met with this figure, this feminine figure, who you immediately recognize as a guardian of safety, and she beckons you both into shelter and safety, and you're there. And at this point, I don't know if I mentioned, it's dark, and you're on foot, and you're being ushered down, or ushered into safety. And that's where it ends. So there's a lot of symbolism and archetypes that came in through that. So I took some notes, and we're gonna break it down and see what that means, because it was very, very clear what Spirit was trying to communicate. So first off, the buses, your daughter, and then repurposing. So buses represent collective vehicles. It's a vehicle that for the collective. So, and then shared direction, long journeys, destiny vehicles. This is what buses represent in the astral. So the buses were in that space, they were no longer in service, but they were still running. They were meant to be repurposed, and that's powerful symbolism that suggests that maybe old systems that may represent old systems, old roles, old identities, still functional but meant for transformation. So your daughter is the one pitching the vision, and in this case again represents a Page of Wands type archetype that's young, energetic, creative, and entrepreneurial spirit, curious, and communicative, passion, drive, vision. And it represents legacy, future self. This archetype could represent, maybe your literal daughter, but it could also represent legacy, your future self, or creative offspring, emotional continuity, or your softer visionary side, or even a younger collective, maybe future generations to come. So the Page of Wands energy, and then ending up with one bus versus two, suggests one direction and shared vision, or shared mission and unification. So building something meaningful together, either spiritually or quite literally. So something mobile and adaptive, repurposed, visionary but practical. It's transformational and useful to the collective or other communities of people. So it's something being co-created, an older generation, and an older, I don't want to say older generation, but I want to relate it to a divine feminine archetype, because it was very much so the high priestess that came out with that, and and then also a mother type figure as well. So, any of the queens really, or even the empress, who is a mother. And with it being, because this was where I collected this yesterday, which was the 3 on the 3-3 portal. So with that, being closely aligned with that 9 of Pentacles energy, pre-Empress energy, that certainly aligned with Empress, that maternal aspect that the Empress brings out. So the vampire family. So the vampire family, we'll call it vampire family for lack of a better term. But it looked normal. It appeared to be normal. It acted normal, but then its eyes shimmer, and it had to force restrain from showing its true form. And there was negotiating going on, and shape shifting, and very much so, even if they weren't vampires per se, definitely creatures that wanted to feed. That was certainly apparent in the feeling, the whole overall energy of it. So we're gonna say energy vampires, so that aspect of it represents a false security and energetic manipulation, also charm, hiding, predation, and hey, stop that, don't chew on that. And also I think of like wolves in sheep's clothing type deal. So you sensed it before it became obvious. So that suggests intuitive growth and strengthened sensitivity to energies external to you and around you, basically. And the important thing was that you didn't react. You weren't scared, and you didn't react. You exited. You removed yourself from the vicinity, and then came the chase. So you weren't afraid. You didn't react, but you full on expected to be chased, and you were. And you drove across this impossible terrain fearlessly, having full faith that you were going to be able to do it and get past there, get you and your daughter safely past this all-consuming terrain that in any logical circumstance wouldn't be drivable, and wouldn't be drivable. It was an impossible terrain. So normally that would be destructive, but you had full-on absolute faith that you were able to do it, and it may have aided in the actual success of that knowing. So what that suggests, though, that whole terrain in the imagery was so vivid, but it's very much so pure alchemical symbolism in that regard, and how you handled it, that was full-on emotional mastery. So and fire integration, really, especially with that fire and lava and the mercurial aspect to it, and then the light, it very much so gives off temperance vibes. Temperance is the alchemical process in the tarot, but it's also transmutation of fear, because that it wasn't a sense of fear that you felt, but a determination and a drive and a focus and momentum, which also brings in that energy of the Chariot, which we'll get into when we get into the archetypes that showed up. But then you have the whipping mythical creatures too, and they moved fast in a circular motion, and used their own motion as a weapon, which would suggest also they were deceptively fluffy. So they kind of like the family that appeared normal, appeared to be human, appeared to be amicable, who were really predatory creatures. Same type themed energy here. You have these creatures that by no means looking at them are normal in any way, but they are deceptive by looking more harmless than what they are. So that could represent, especially with their circular attack motion, it could represent spinning thoughts or thought forms, energetic chaos loops, and emotional storms, spiritual tests at the threshold. Usually when you're in a transitional phase and you're crossing a threshold or getting ready to level up, you're met with tests, which is very much so too the Neptune and Saturn in Aries type energy. That Neptune energy is very dreamy and illusionary and creative, and then met with and boundaryless, but then met with Saturn, it's the opposite type energy with boundaries, restrictions, and gonna test your limits, gonna test your resolve, and force you to look at your strengths and your weaknesses, and force you to, if you're going to succeed at what you're going to do, it's going to force you to into self-mastery. So it's very much so that that energy of Neptune and Saturn, that meets you at the threshold and will test your resolve. So, and you passed them. You were met with the guardian at the threshold who ushered you into safety, you and your daughter. So that represents threshold crossing, classic initiation symbolism. So there's success there. And what that means energetically moving forward is no, not necessarily, no more tests, and everything is hunky-dory, but it does mean that a spiritual upgrade, a spiritual evolution, and you're outgrowing old draining energetic systems and dynamics, rather that be really on a grand scale. Honestly, this has to do with the collective. So not only what's playing out on a grand scale, but maybe even in your individual personal lives, you've outgrown energy draining systems, and you've reached a level of mastery, of emotional mastery, where you're finally attuned, your intuition is online and finally attuned in order to recognize these energies that are deceptive, or trying to fool you or use you for nefarious gains, and energetically to feed off your energy energetically for systems that aren't for your highest good. So the fire that you are mastering chaos, that also means regulating your nervous system, remaining calm in the middle of chaos, being able to focus your attention and your drive and pull that willpower in, and recognize that you're more powerful than you know. You're more powerful than you recognize and that you know, and you're beginning to awaken to that and not be afraid of that recognition and that power within, and bringing it back in and not outsourcing it. You were in no way, shape, or form a victim in that scenario. It was grabbing your daughter and getting out of there. and making it to safety, regardless of the way any external factors looked. So that's really strong. I felt empowered just curating the message from the what was being shown. It was quite empowering. The energetic frequency and signature behind it is definitely one of empowerment. So that's something to be proud of and be thankful for and excited for, because if you can imagine this type of energy on an individual level, it means overcoming and fighting back the darkness and succeeding. So, in contributing, being an effective tool in order to fight back that darkness and that energy vampirism and these nefarious creatures and thought forms. So, which are very much so legit and true. So, the guardian at the threshold, that's upgraded protection and upgraded perception and or perspective, however you want to word it. Both. Upgraded protection, though, that's comforting as well. We're not alone in this. Not only are there other people in the collective, contributing to the fight of darkness, but this overall energy, whole month of March and onward, is the rising of light. The rising of light. So all this darkness that we've been experiencing and witnessing and feeling, it's pushing us to our breaking point, to where we're fed up and we're fighting back with light. So, and if this doesn't resonate with you, it may not be your message. Maybe you're part of the dark. Who knows? I don't know. But if it does resonate, know that we're not alone and we are winning. It's already done. It's already done. So, emotional core. The emotional core of the message was protecting your daughter and escaping predatory energy while building something new and crossing into safety. That's so relevant during this time. Protecting your daughter is like protecting our children, protecting the youth, protecting generations to come, and stepping into our maternal roles. There's plenty of stories out there where mothers whose children were in danger just developed this supernatural strength in order to save their child from whatever, by lifting cars even, so it's really tapping into that reserve of strength that was dormant or you didn't know you had, and have even more of, you know what I mean? So it's tapping into your personal power and strength and that divine feminine maternal aspect in order to fight for future generations and that younger generation, in order to build something new and more aligned to a higher vibrational frequency for our future, which is where we're headed, with the ascension of the earth. And when I say the ascension of the earth, I don't mean the earth is physically moving, although we are orbiting in space. So, but it's a frequency. It's a frequency moving from a 3D dimensional frequency into a higher frequency, 5D and above. So we're getting more and more information downloaded to us and we have access to, that we didn't have access to prior, because of being bogged down in lower, denser vibrational frequencies. So we do have access to these higher realms and higher levels of frequency. I'll just leave it at that. And of course, you're welcome to always do your own research and look into that. Look into all the different dimensions and vibrational frequencies and what that means. I invite you to. I invite conversation. I invite dialogue. I invite all of that. So what does that mean? Also, when I was curating this message, it was 11:01 on the clock. So 111, which is alignment. And it's very much so synchronistic to the message, because you're in alignment to your higher self and your higher vibrational frequency, that upgrading and in alignment to the energies that are at play, the planetary energies that are at play, the macro affecting the microcosm. So you're in alignment to that. And the message was illuminating the transformational growth. So we also had, again, maternal legacy activating, your discernment sharpening, alchemy strengthening, and threshold crossing complete. That's graduation, baby. That's graduation. So the fact that you were not afraid and you were just focused says you're stronger than you realized. So that was the message from the astral. So now I want to get into some of the archetypes that showed up, because there was quite a few archetypes, and the most obvious one, in my opinion, was the Chariot, with the bus. And the Chariot in multiple ways, not just literally with the vehicle, the bus being the vehicle, but also that sheer willpower, determination, and drive to make it across that impossible terrain. So you're really needing to overcome opposing forces with that Chariot energy and to make it across. So, and then also the 2 bus to 1 bus, that's integration. And the Chariot isn't just movement, but it does represent aligned willpower. So the Chariot. Also the Page of Wands, we already mentioned why. That's that daughter archetype, that entrepreneurial, creative spark. What if we did this type energy, just kind of curious and innocent and adaptive and future-oriented direction. So, and then we also have the Devil, that vampiric family type energy, is definitely devil-coded. And, devil in the tarot is ruled by Saturn. So, we have that aspect playing in as well. And then with Neptune, illusions, that also fits into that whole aspect. But, energy drain, seduction masked as normalcy, negotiations, contracts, charm, hiding, predation, that's all devil coded. So, and then the High Priestess, you show your intuition on point. You can maybe even say the Queen of Swords, but really using that discernment and observing with that High Priestess in strong intuition and knowing, feeling the energy shift and change, but also seeing it as well and knowing when to book it. So you're reading energy beneath the surface, and it was pure intuitive awareness. So that's very much so High Priestess energy. And then also, again, temperance, which is that alchemical, temperance is everywhere throughout the whole thing. You have that scene moving across the liquid, molten lava, mercurial, whatever you want to call it. and then, you know, the changing of the terrain, and then the gold and the silver. So that brings in the temperance archetype, and then also death, the chase plus the magical survival. You know, it's not necessarily a physical death, but the transformation part, the transformation of going through that process and making it to the other side, changed and protected. So you go from that state of protection and focus and drive and urgency to I could breathe type energy, where we made it and we're protected, and you're met with the guardian at the threshold. So it's crossing the impossible terrain, leaving one world of danger into another world with more safety. And you didn't burn, you didn't disintegrate, you transformed. The bus transformed from a vehicle to, you know, you were, you know, it changed. So death, transformation. Also the animals, the creatures that you were met with, you know, could be also tied to the Wheel of Fortune, you know, because the Wheel of Fortune, yeah, it's divine timing, it's you know, it's the turning of the wheel, it's luck or bad luck depending on what's up and what's down. But it's also the fact that they moved in circular motion reminds me of the wheel, and then also weaponized motion and fast rotation. So the wheel tests stability. So again, you have that Saturn energy coming in there, and you know, it's very much so in alignment with that Wheel of Fortune coded energy, with it testing stability. So, and then the very last one is the World, which is completion of a cycle. It's a protected new cycle, and it's also integration. So graduation equals integration. And so new level, new problems. But we'll enjoy the success in the meanwhile before we go into the new problems, right? But those are all the archetypes that came up. The Revolve was around intuition, protection, legacy, forward movement, momentum, sovereignty, and the whole thing just screamed upgrade. So soul evolution, upgrade, and who's gonna fight that? So anyway, that was the message from the astral. I do want to pull a couple of cards for you guys from, we're doing pretty good on time, knock on wood. I want to pull from Tarot Emblemata, which is so alchemical. It's such an alchemical deck. So we're going to pull a couple cards from there. We're also going to pull from Astral Realm, since it's a message from the astral. And if we have time, I may pull from Work Your Light Oracle. But let's see. I'm going to try to keep this short before I go running out of memory. All right, Spirit, what do we have for the collective for their highest good? What message can we leave the collective with in regards to embodiment and integration, and what we need to know as far as the energy that was experienced and overcome? All right. I don't know if I've ever used this deck on camera before. It's got these, can't really tell. It's like totally perfect too. The edges aren't gold or silver. It's like a cross between, which is very much so what we were describing with that terrain. All right, Thank you, Spirit. Couple cards. What do we have for the collective? 9 of Cups. Anything else? Thank you, Spirit. Devil. All right. We got 3 cards here. And the 6 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. So the first card that came out is the 9 of Cups. And the Ace of Swords. And then we've got the Devil. So the 9 of Cups is normally the wish fulfillment card. It's emotional fulfillment, wish fulfillment, but 9s also represent endings of a cycle and coming into something more emotional fulfilling, but more consciously created from a heart space. And in this particular deck, the Tarot Emblemata, it says, and so she drank her fill. So again, it's like overcoming something in order to get that emotional upgrade. And then with the Ace of Swords, that's mental clarity, discernment. That discernment and that mental clarity, that intuition and that clear vision, clear seeing, that was coded throughout the whole message. But this is basically what you're upgrading into. It's a higher level of perception and discernment and being able to see through, you know, when you're being manipulated or when you're being energetically drained or used or manipulated, really. You know, you're able to see the creatures and the demons behind the masks better now. The power of intellect and clarity is what it says. That's what you've upgraded to. And this Devil is overcoming that fear and illusions and what is the word I'm trying to say? Attachments. You weren't attached to the outcome either. You were focused, but you weren't attached to the outcome. You weren't thinking, you weren't bogged down with all of the what if this goes wrong? What if the tires incinerate before you make it across? You didn't care about that. You didn't care what if I get burned? You just kept moving anyway. Fearless, and this represents fear and attachments and, you know, the invisible chains that hold us, where, you know, really, if we just recognize that the chains aren't locked, the power is within us, and it is an illusion, then it's easier to let go of that attachment and recognize that recognize fear for what it is, but the moment you recognize it and move through it anyway, it dissolves. And basically that's what happened. And then you have 6 of Wands at the bottom of the deck, which is success. Yeah. Success, public recognition, being seen, being acknowledged, being celebrated. So that's great. The Fool, taking that blind leap of faith, that's Aries energy as well. And we're getting ready. What are we in? So we're still in Pisces, or very much so early Pisces, but we're going to be stepping into Aries season pretty soon. But we do have Saturn and Neptune in Aries right now, which, you know, at 0 degrees, which is 0 in the tarot. The Fool is 0 in the tarot. So brand new beginnings, resets, fresh start, having faith, sometimes blind faith, and recognizing that even when it appears to be a cliff in front of you, if you take the first step, the path will appear before you, and having the courage to do that. And Aries is definitely an energy of courage and being bold. So you have that energy supporting you there. All right, I'm going to get a message from the astral. What message can we get from the astral to leave the collective with? Maybe 1. Can't believe I had the balls to record this whole video without my microphone. I hope I don't regret that. All right, I got one, and it's 3. Expression. Let's see what that is. Flower agate. Flower agate, throat chakra. Self-growth, potential, blossoming, intuition. The way we express ourselves is multifaceted. Can't talk. Visually, through our appearance, who we choose to surround ourselves with, and body language, but most significantly via spoken interactions. Communicating with others and ourselves is an integral part of how we shape our reality. When your throat chakra is closed or blocked, you will experience trouble communicating effectively with others, and it will hinder your ability to speak your truth, which is your most pure form of expression. It can leave you feeling insecure or introverted and the rest of your chakras unbalanced. However, when your throat chakra is open and the energy flows freely, you're able to stand firm in what you believe and express yourself openly and honestly with not only those around you, but more importantly with yourself. To activate and open your throat chakra, carry flower agate or your day-to-day ventures and put it under your pillow when you sleep. Flower agate's healing energetic vibrations help plant the seeds for your manifestations, ideas and intentions to blossom and turn your dreams into reality, while banishing your feelings of self-doubt and insecurity. Activation guidance. Start keeping a journal, because if you keep your feelings and thoughts bottled up, you are bound to explode. Once you are comfortable writing down your true feelings, you will gain the confidence to put your words into action and express them to the collective around you. Alternatively, you can practice by speaking your truths into a mirror. I am open and honest with myself, and my community can offer them my insight. Let me start that over, because apparently I'm having trouble reading. I have a problem with my eye chakras. I am open and honest with myself and my community, and can offer them my insight by expressing my true feelings and wisdom. Boom. Absolutely. Express yourself authentically. Authenticity is one of the highest vibrational frequencies next to love, so highly encourage that. Also, a lot of people are afraid to communicate their truth, and the more you can practice that, the more you can practice unapologetically communicating your truth and communicating in general, it's going to get easier and easier. And not only that, it helps to contribute to the overall vibrational frequency of the planet by sharing your voice, sharing your intuition. If you're part of my collective, if you're part of this collective, then it's automatically aligned with love. So share your voice, practice standing in your authenticity and courage and confidence. Those are all high vibrational frequencies that contribute to fighting the dark. So with that being said, I'm gonna leave you there. I hope this message resonated. I hope it found you well. If it did resonate, please feel free to share in the comments how it did. It helps the channel, it helps others who happen to find it, and it helps grow a community that's focused on contributing to raising the vibrational frequency of the planet in service to Source. So, all right, with that being said, keep on rising, y'all. Come back for more. Bye.